Welcome back to the C.T.W. podcast. I am your host, Duranquez Wynn, and thank you for tuning in again. In this episode, I kind of wanted to talk about pain and the right perspective of pain, and how sometimes pain can be purposeful, but because of how pain is represented, and because of how when pain happens in your life, no one actually explains it to you and say that sometimes pain can be a good thing. And I'm not saying that all situations are positive. I'm not saying all situations are meant to propel you, and all painful situations are purposeful. What I'm saying is that with the right perspective and the right outlook on life, and with your relationship with God and your understanding with God, is that God can take that pain and He can give you a revelation or an outlook that can propel you to become a better version of yourself for your desired destination to where He wants to take you, for His desired destination for where He wants to take you. And I think a lot of times, because of how pain is represented and because of the feeling that pain gives us, we a lot of times assimilate that with negativity. A lot of times we blame God for that negativity or that feeling of pain that comes with pain when something that happens in our life, regardless of the situation. If not, all of us have been through some type of painful experience, regardless of the magnitude of it, regardless of the level. Everyone has been through some type of painful experience, whether it's an animal dying, whether it's a loss of a shoe and something that was sentimental to you, to a loved one dying, to X, Y, and Z. It does not matter the situation or circumstance. We all have experienced pain. And sometimes that pain, because of the feeling that it gives us, it can be looked at as, I never want that to happen again. I don't like the way that made me feel. I don't want to go in that direction ever again. And while that can be good in certain situations, it also can be detrimental to you becoming who you're supposed to be in God, who to take that next step to reach your goals, to obtain that mental freedom or that spiritual freedom, to obtain what God has for you in the next level for where He wants to take you. Because sometimes the perspective of it can literally either propel you or it can paralyze you. And when it comes to pain, if it is not processed properly, it will completely paralyze you right where you are. It will make you stagnant where you are, because no one wants to go through a painful situation constantly. No one wants to continually go through situations where they feel that they're going to keep getting hurt. They're going to keep going through negativity. They're going to keep getting chastised or rejected, or regardless of the situation. No one wants to continually go through those things. And because when pain happens, the feeling that you get, it causes so much chaos in your mind. It causes so much mental fatigue. It causes so much stress. No one wants to intentionally put themselves through that. So the first thing, because us as human, sometimes the first thing that we do is we protect ourselves. We put ourselves in a situation to make sure that never happens again. We put ourselves in a situation to make sure that we never go in that direction. We never even step foot over there again. And I would like to submit that maybe a little shift in your perspective and a different outlook on that. Sometimes that pain was purposeful. Sometimes that pain was actually needed to propel you into where God was calling you to be. Even if you don't have a solid foundation or a solid relationship in God, or even if you don't believe in God, one of the things I would like to submit, that just because you don't believe does not mean He is not around. Just because you don't acknowledge does not mean He is still not working in your life. And one thing that I want to submit is that sometimes God allows certain things to propel us, certain painful situations to propel us in to who He wants us to be. Sometimes He allows us to go through things so therefore we can have that resilience, so we can have that persistence, so we can have that mindset to understand that, well, what I went through previously is not as bad as this, or I've been through this already and I made it out. A lot of times that we go through certain situations and circumstances, we become so paralyzed that we have PTSD, and we remember how that made us feel. We remember how we got laughed at. We remember how we got picked on. We remember the feeling that it gave us. And so we become so paralyzed where we are. And regardless of the situation, regardless if you had a divorce, regardless of abuse, regardless of anything, breakups, if you're dating, regardless of loss of money, someone stole money from you, someone stole some material things from you, shoes, clothes, regardless of anything, those situations, and I'm not saying that all painful situations are positive, because some situations are just correlated to life. There are wicked people on this planet. The devil is still a real person. He still allows, there are people that do have wicked intentions. So I'm not saying that all painful situations are purposeful. I am saying that when you are a righteous person and you are doing your best and following in the footsteps of the path that God has for you, even if you don't acknowledge him, that certain situations can be purposeful that produce pain. Certain situations that he take you through, certain situations that you go through, even if you don't realize it, that pain that comes from those situations can be purposeful. They provide you with a different outlook. They provide you with a different perspective. They allow you to be wise. They allow you to have wisdom and knowledge in certain situations. So all painful situations aren't bad situations. And I feel that with the right perspective, that certain painful situations, he allows us to go through certain painful situations so that we can continue to grow in him. One thing that I've experienced and one thing that I have endured on my journey is that when you submit to his will, now his purpose or his goal is to make sure that you are fully developed. Because if not, just like any loving father, when you, as a child, he's going to make sure, his job is to make sure that his child is properly prepared for where they're supposed to go or what they want to do or where he is leading them to go. And it is the same thing with God. When you submit yourself to his will and you listen and you're governed by him, he is going to make sure, whether you like it or not, when you submit your will to his will, he is going to make sure that regardless of the situation or circumstance, it is going to make sure you're prepared for what he has for you or what you're asking him for. Because a lot of times that I know the way God has been represented and the way certain things go, when certain people talk about him, is that sometimes you submitting your will to him is his will for you. And a lot of times the way it's explained, it can become as I need to give up, and that sometimes you are going to have to give up what you want for what he wants. But he'll sometimes, depending on the situation or person, he can give it back to you double. He can give it back to you 30, 60, and 100-fold. But not to get off topic, those situations that God is taking you through and those situations that he allowed you to go through or he allowed you to experience, he is literally building you and he is literally molding you to prepare you for a place that he has for you. Regardless of the situation, to prepare you for an end goal, just like a loving father. And I would like to submit that anyone who is going through a painful situation or circumstance, who is going through a situation that they feel is very unfavorable to them, who is going through something, who is not currently going through something, but has went through something that they just cannot shake the pain from it. They cannot shake the mindset of it. They cannot shake how that made them feel. I would like to submit to you, go spend time with God and ask him, hey, what are you preparing me for? Hey, what was that for in my life? What did I need to go through that for? What did that situation teach me? And a lot of times we don't understand what the exact situation is for. We don't understand why it exactly happened to us. But there comes a situation, if we continue to move forward, that it will be revealed. That situation and that circumstance will be revealed. It will come to pass on, oh, I understand now why God took me through X, Y, and Z. I understand why I had to go through this. I understand why this happened in my life. But that situation or that circumstance will not come until your perspective on pain shifts, until you look at it more as, okay, Romans 8:18 says the suffering of this present time cannot compare to the glory that is about to be revealed to us and in us. And so a lot of times people feel because of the lack of understanding of God, sometimes people feel that suffering does not equate to God. And I would like to submit that sometimes he allows us to suffer. So when we get out of that, when we're for what we ask him for or for where he's calling us, when we get out of that season of suffering, because I feel that suffering is subjective. It is depending on the situation, it is subjective. It is going to be determined based on your perspective. That when you get out of that season that you call suffering, whatever it may be, that situation will give you revelation, insight, and knowledge and understanding for the path and the goal that you're going towards. And a lot of times I think that because of suffering and because of the negative thing that is attached to suffering, nobody, or most people, I can't say nobody, most people don't equate suffering to God. Most people don't think that God is going to allow you to suffer. God is going to allow you to go without. God is going to allow you to go through a situation and not and allow it to be painful. And I would like to submit that sometimes he does. Sometimes he allows us to go through painful situations, regardless of what it is, so that we can become stronger in him. So that because a lot of times we as people, we don't have it in ourselves to push ourselves. And because he loves us, he will provide a push for us sometimes. And that's not in all situations. That's not in all cases. And because he is so loving and because he wants us to progress and he wants us to be developed in him, he has to put us in situations so that we can be developed. He has to put us in situations that will allow us to move and to allow us to shift, because if not, we probably wouldn't move without him putting us in a situation to do so. And that's something that I don't think is talked about enough, is that when you're going through a painful situation and you're going through something that you don't want to go through, or you don't feel like you should go through because you feel like your life has been stressful enough, or you feel like you've dealt with enough, that he's trying to prepare you for what he has for you. And he's trying to prepare you for that next level of your life that you may have been praying for. A lot of times we'll ask God for something, but we're not ready for what we're asking him for. And so because he loves us enough, he's not going to give us something that is attached to his name and we're not prepared for it, because we'll make him look bad. And so what happens is that he'll give us what we want, but we have to go through the process in order to get it, to make sure, or for him to know that we are prepared for whatever it is. Whatever you're asking God for, whether you're asking God for a child, whether you're asking God for promotion, whether you're asking God for a certain amount of money, for a certain amount of square footage, whether you're asking God to make it somewhere, God is going to put you in a situation, especially when you ask him for it. He's going to put you in a situation or circumstance to make sure that you are prepared. So therefore, you will not be underdeveloped and then be able to blame him for it. God, that's not the God that we serve. He is not going to attach his name to something when either he has not prepared for it or you have not prepared for it. And if you're asking him, he's going to make sure you're prepared for it. And that preparation may come with pain. And sometimes that pain is purposeful to get you to the place that you want to be. And one thing that I can say is that a lot of times, even in my life, in my situation, that I have been through situations and circumstances with God, and I'm sitting there saying, God, why me? Why am I going through X, Y, and Z? Why does it feel like I'm the only person going through this situation or circumstance? And that's not true. Everybody goes through situations and circumstances, the reason that yours feels so personal is because the enemy may be trying to magnify whatever you're going through to make you feel or to make you give up. Hey, you're the only one going through this, so you might as well just stop. Hey, God won't be mad with you if you just stop right here and turn back. Hey, you know what? This really ain't even worth all this hassle. And I would like to submit to anyone watching this, don't give up. Do not let the enemy get in your head and tell you to back up. Do not let the enemy get in your head and tell you to turn around. Do not let the enemy get in your head and tell you it's not worth it. Do not let the enemy get in your head and say, I no longer want this anymore. Regardless of what it is, continue to go forward and go forward with God. Continue, call on him if you need strength. Matthew 11 and 28. Give me a second. I have two for you actually. Matthew 11 and 28, it says, come to me, all who are weary and heavily burdened by religious rituals that provide no peace, and I will make you rest, refresh your souls with salvation. Matthew 11, 28. And the other one is Isaiah 40 and 31. Or it might be 41 and 30. 41. Let's see. Give me a second. Oh, my bad. It was Isaiah 40 and 30. It said even 30 through 31. It says, even youths grow weary and tired, and vigorously young men stumble badly. But those who wait for the Lord, who expect, look for, and hope in him, will gain new strength and renew their minds. They will lift up their wings and rise up close to God like eagles, rise towards the sun. They will run and not become weary. They will walk and not grow tired. So for anyone who is going through a situation in their life where they're ready to throw in the towel, they're ready to give up, there is too much pain it's too much pain on them. It's too much of a burden on them to go through the situation and circumstance that they're going through. I would like to submit that sometimes that pain is necessary. Sometimes that pain is purposeful. And if you give up, you will never get to what God has promised you. If you stop right now in the middle of what you're doing, regardless of what it is, if you're pursuing a career in something, if you're pursuing building a business, if you're pursuing marriage, if you're pursuing whatever, being a husband or father, whatever, if you're a single parent, regardless of the situation or circumstance, if you're in counseling, if you're alcohol or whatever the situation may be, don't give up. Go through what you need to go through. Allow God to take you through it. But those two verses that I gave you, it is representation that God understands that we will go through situations and circumstances where we will be tired, especially when we're going through a painful season, or if we're going through the wilderness. We're going to have situations where we might be like, God, this is too much for me. I can't take this anymore. I don't understand why I'm the only one going through this. And I would like to submit, you're not the only one going through this. As a matter of fact, I have something for that as well. It's James 1 and 2. Let's see. Actually, let's go 1 Peter 5. First Peter 5 and 9, it says, but resist him and be firm, talking about the devil. Be firm in your faith against his attacks, rooted, established, immovable, knowing that the same experiences of suffering are being experienced by your brothers and sisters throughout the world. You do not suffer alone. That is 1 Peter 5 and 9. And it is talking about how you're not the only one going through this. You're not the only one that is in a painful season of your life. You're not the only one that is experiences pain and persecution, trials and tribulation. And so what I would like to submit to you is that the season of pain, or the season that you're going through that is very painful to you, regardless of what it is, or if you have been through a painful situation or season and you're still dealing with that pain, you're not the only one. The Bible even says in 1 Peter 5:9 that brothers and sisters all over the world are going through the same persecution that you're going through. You do not suffer alone. And so what I would like to submit anyone who's watching this is that the pain that you are going through is very purposeful. Do not give up. Do not back down. Do not allow the enemy to take your purpose and your goal from you. Regardless, continue to fight, regardless of how tired you get, regardless of anything. Call on God. It says, they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up on wings like eagles. They shall run and not faint. Isaiah 41:30, literally. And so let me make sure, because I don't want to give nobody the wrong thing and then they studying it. I think it's 40:31. Let's see. Didn't I just have Isaiah? Here we go. 40 and 30. Yeah. But it's 30 through 31. And like I said, I think that when your perspective on pain shifts, I think that it can definitely allow you to have a different outlook on your life, regardless of what it is. I think sometimes that we get into situations and then we blame God because of how God is represented. We feel like God shouldn't allow us to go through this, or we feel like we have been too good to go through what we've been through. And like I said, I would like to submit that's not true. And even if you are still having a hard time understanding why is God allowing me to go through X, Y, and Z, Romans 8:28 said God causes all things to work together for the good of them that love the Lord, that are called according to his purpose. As Romans 8:28, that regardless of the situation or circumstance that you've been through, God causes that to work for your good. God did not cause it, but it can work for your good. And that's one of the things that has helped me on my journey to understand that even though God did not cause this to happen to me, that he can still take the situation and use it for my good. He can still take the abuse. He can still take the divorce. He can still take the miscarriage. He can still take the whatever I've been through, or the drop out of college, or the not getting the job that I wanted. He can take that situation. He can take life and he can use it for my good to still get me to where he has called me to be. And I would submit to anyone, like I said, watching this, is that regardless of the situation or circumstance, God can still use it. I'm talking about regardless of what it is. Romans 8:28, God causes all things. He didn't say some things. He didn't say little things. He didn't say things that you care about. He didn't say things that he only cared about. It says all things to work together for the good of them that love the Lord, that are called according to his purpose. And that's one of the things that whoever is watching this, it can give you peace. Regardless of what it is that God can take that situation, this painful situation that I'm in, this stressful situation, this chaotic situation, this situation that is not, I feel that is not favorable to me. He can take that situation and literally propel you and literally use it to give you insight, wisdom, revelation, knowledge, to allow you to grow in who you are. Because his job for us, especially when we pray for certain things, is to make sure we are developed for where we're asking him to go. And he is not going to allow us to go somewhere if we're underdeveloped. He will delay it before he allows it to happen. I'm talking about any situation. And so, like I said, I would submit to anyone watching this that pain that you're going through, keep going. It's very purposeful. It's needed to go through that. All pain is a negative pain. And also all pain isn't from God. Some pain is life, but God can take the pain of life and he can use it and allow it to work for your good. But yeah, I think that's it. I appreciate you guys for watching. I am your host, Deron Quizwin, and thank you for watching the C.T.W. podcast.